My name's Anthony Knight, and I served with the Royal Navy for 28 years. And I now work with the charity Fighting with Pride that looks after LGBT veterans.
I'm Norman Knowles Forrest. I'm a Chief Engineer Officer in the Merchant Navy.
My name's Graham Booker. I serve with 3rd Battalion Queen's Regiment, the 6th 7th Battalion Queen's Regiment, 2nd Battalion Princess of Wales Regiment, 6th 7th Battalion Princess of Royal Regiment, and the 3rd Battalion Princess of Wales Royal Regiment.
It was extremely moving, wasn't it? Fabulous ceremony, great honour to attend and to pay respects to all our fallen veterans from D-Day 80 years ago. It was hard to hold back the tears, actually.
Well, it's acknowledging our forebearers, their effort, their sacrifice, and if we don't, who will? It's simple as that.
The medals, when I first went to sea, the one on the left was for tankers going into Vietnam, taking fuel in for the Americans. Then I was in the tanker war in the 80s between Iran and Iraq, where a lot of British ships were getting hit. Then I got the Queen's Medal for one of her jubilees, and then the Merchant Navy Medal. That's the Merchant Navy Medal, that's the Iran-Iraq one.
My great-granddad was over on D-Day. He passed away like 4 months after I was born, but you know, being here kind of makes you feel a bit closer. But yeah, just pay respects.
I went active service in Aden in 1965. I've done Aden, I've done Cyprus with the UN, Northern Ireland, and several other places, finishing up in Israel.
And so, these on your chest?
Oh, Northern Ireland. We were in Cyprus during Gulf War One, and they considered that was part of Gulf War. We were doing a lot of logistical support to the troops deployed over in the Gulf.
You know, it was all those letters. Hopefully you attended as well, and hearing those readers talk about the memories of. Sorry, I'm holding it.
No, take your time.
Of hearing those at the front line, you know, writing back, you know, on the eve of D-Day. It's the ordinary folk who do extraordinary acts, and I think that's where it really got me today.
And troop levels now in the Army dip below the target of 73,000. I mean, it's the lowest we've seen for maybe in ever, you know, living memory. What do you guys feel about the current state of the Army, British Army?
I think they've been too selective on who they take into the Army. There's a lot of youngsters wanting to join the Army, but with education has let them down in some form. I think, yeah, they were too selective.
It was very well, the whole thing was very well organised, but trying to get into it originally on the day of the phone call, try and get in when there were 6,000 tickets going, it was horrendous. There was just nothing. I was very, very lucky. My granddaughter managed to get me a ticket.
So how do you know? Obviously, very, very pleased that you got in there. What's the overwhelming feeling after attending it for you? How do you feel now after that?
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? To be able to say that I've been there and done that, it's really something.
You know, we shouldn't forget what it cost to have peace. You know, I wear these medals in remembrance of hard-fought battles to have peace, and D-Day changed the course of the world, and the freedoms which we have today, are enjoyed by all of us in society, and we should remember and we should reflect back on what it took for us to, have that security and that freedoms of today. Yes, I've served with the Royal Navy, so I've been to war 5 times myself, and particularly when I reflect back on my time just before the start of the Falklands War, of writing similar letters, so I could really connect it with hearing those letters of people who were at the front line 80 years ago, you know, on the cusp of landing on the beaches and the shores of Normandy. So yeah, it's a very heartfelt and emotional moment today.
King Charles talks a lot about that emotion as well of the day and how difficult it would be for us to imagine what it was like for those young men. Do you think this is something we should teach more in schools?
Yes, I think you should never forget, you know, the bravery and courage of the people that served in the armed forces, and the ordinary people who were called up during, you know, the Second World War, who found themselves, you know, at the front. You know, these were ordinary people doing extraordinary events and tasks on the day, and that should be remembered and that should be celebrated. And yeah, today was very moving and a fabulous tribute and fitting moment for what took place 80 years ago.
And what's your abiding memory from today? What will you take away with you?
Oh gosh, I think just the splendour of the day. I should say I was in Liverpool yesterday, and we had a storm. We had the rain and the gales and the wind, and coming down to here today, it was almost like remembering the 6th of June 80 years ago when the storm broke. And today, seeing the sunshine and the blue skies over Portsmouth will be a long abiding memory of today for me.
The ceremony, I'm lost for words, and that don't happen very often with me. It's one of the best places I've ever been. The people have been so nice and friendly. I've talked to the youngest people, to some of the veterans. It's been a real eye-opener.
What's everyone been saying?
Sorry?
What's everybody been saying to each other? What's the tone of those conversations?
They were talking and they were saying they never thought they'd last this long. You know, there was one, he was one of the first ones ashore, and he said he didn't even think he was going to last a day, and here he is, 80 years old, talking about it. It was real. And then there were some school children there. They wanted to know what I was in. I told them in the army and that, and they were really interested in what's going on. That's our future, the youngsters.
That's lovely to hear. Also, what are your particular highlights of the ceremony, or the most emotional parts?
The most emotional part was when the veteran was up there with his great-grandchildren. Puts a real lump in your throat like that, and the way the grandchildren spoke, unbelievable. They were really good.